Hello everybody. I trust you're having a great week, and I do hope you had a good Sunday. We're excited about this short series we're doing, looking at just the ordinary days of our lives. We know that all of us live day after day, and many of our days just seem to be ordinary, run-of-the-mill, same as yesterday, same as tomorrow. We believe that God has got some different experiences that He's looking to outwork through our ordinary days. We looking that God has got a different expectation to place in our hearts for our ordinary days. We're going to watch a short clip just from one of Sunday's talks. And I hope that as we look at the talk together and explore some of the deeper meaning in your group, that you'll manage to get some further insight and some further inspiration as to how each of our ordinary days can be transformed into an extraordinary day.
Because when we have expectation, it rises realization about what God is doing in our ordinary days. When we wake up and we say, Lord, I am expecting you to do great things today, it means when you enter your workplace, you don't just plop down at your desk like you normally do with your coffee, but actually you think, I wonder what God might want me to do today. I wonder what miracles He's got ahead for me to unfold. I wonder what conversations I'm going to be able to have with my work colleagues, or whatever area you spend your day-to-day life in. And so, as we think about this, there are four groups of characters in this story who all miss the point. And what we're going to do over these next few moments is almost bring them on stage, and we're going to talk about them, understand what they missed, and then apply it to our lives, and how we then can not miss what God wants to do in our ordinary days. Then we'll send them off stage, and we'll get the next lot of characters in this story up. I think it must have been very frustrating for Jesus, because when you read throughout the Gospels, over and over, people are misinterpreting what He's saying, especially His disciples. And that's the first group of people that we're going to pull up on the stage and look at, the disciples of Jesus. When you read it, sometimes the gospel makes them look a bit stupid, doesn't it? They kind of, Jesus is teaching about being the bread of life, and they say, oh, I think Jesus might be hungry, because He's talking about bread. And you think, come on, disciples, how do you not get that? And Jesus seemed, is ever patient with them, trying to unpack this truth. And here, yet again, they completely miss what Jesus is trying to do with this miracle. And I think we need to give the disciples a bit of grace sometimes. They're trying to understand this incredible truth about Jesus being the Son of God. It must have been such a journey for them. Easy for us to look back at them and think how stupid they are, but they were trying to understand the revelation of who Jesus is. So as we bring on the disciples, here's what the disciples missed. The disciples missed the plan for the miracle. The disciples missed the plan for the miracle. And so do we. So many times we miss God's plan for our lives as we get up and go through our day-to-day stuff. We forget that God is trying to do something much greater. Here was the big problem for the disciples. The disciples were nervous that if they went to Judea, where Lazarus was, that they would get into trouble. See, just in the previous chapter, Jesus had been teaching in the temple about who He was, and then He was nearly lynched. They tried to get Him, and they tried to stone Him. So Jesus fled without them noticing. He went into the crowd and had left that place, and He went up to the Jordan River where John the Baptist had baptized people up there, about a day's journey away from Jerusalem. And Jerusalem is in the area of Judea. Lazarus is just a couple of miles outside Jerusalem. So the disciples think, well, if Lazarus is ill and Jesus wants to go and heal him, we're going to have to go back to danger. We're going to a place where they remembered what it was like when they were there just recently, what had happened there. So they were nervous about the fact that they had to go back. And so then Jesus says, well, don't worry, Lazarus is sleeping. So the disciples in their dullness think, oh, brilliant. Lazarus is having a nice little sleep. And just like we all know, if we feel a bit poorly, have a sleep, you always feel better afterwards. So they say to Jesus, well, that's good because he can have a sleep and then he'll feel better afterwards. And so then Jesus, because they've missed it, Jesus has to say plainly, no, I didn't mean sleeping. I meant Lazarus has died. But what Jesus was trying to show to them is something far greater. See, they were expecting Jesus to go and heal Lazarus. Jesus knew that he was going to go and raise Lazarus from the dead. And so Jesus knew that there was a greater plan that he was unfolding with this. That despite the danger of going back to that destination, despite the confusion about whether he was sleeping or dead, Jesus was going to reveal something incredible to them. And just as we talked last week about being in the lake and in the storm, sometimes Jesus will let us go through situations and circumstances because he's trying to reveal something greater. You remember, God has a sovereign view of our lives. He doesn't see our lives on a time continuum. He just sees our lives as one whole thing. And so sometimes he'll take a step back to allow us to go through things because he's trying to reveal something greater to us. And so it is here. He's trying to reveal to them, but they'd missed it because they were worried about the location that they were going to. And Jesus unpacked to them and he says about how walking in the light is the best time to journey. And what he was trying to say to them is to follow the plan of God is the safest place that you can be. Even if you're going to a dangerous place, even if you're going back to Judea, that's the best, safest place that you can be is in the will of God. And so it is for us. We may be nervous about some stuff, but if we stay in the will of God, it's the safest place that we can be. But as we think about the will of God, we've got to be careful because the disciples were overcautious. They didn't want to go there, but there was one disciple who I feel very proud of today because his name is Thomas. And Thomas is known for being the doubter, because he needed to touch the scars and he didn't believe that Jesus had raised from the dead. And so Thomas doubted, and he's known, and I've spent much of my Christian life with people making jokes about, do I doubt still because my name is Thomas? But Thomas is full of faith here because he thinks they're going on a suicide mission. It calls him out, and it says that Thomas said, let us go also so that we may die with him. So he thinks Jesus is going on a suicide mission. He says, come on, lads, let's all go and we'll all die together with Jesus. He's very overzealous, and he thinks it's some kind of suicide mission. And so we still need to be careful, otherwise we'll miss what God is trying to unfold in our plan, because we can be overcautious, but we can also be overzealous, and we can be reckless in our behavior. Both Thomas and the other 11 disciples both missed the plan that God was trying to unfold in their ordinary day. Here's the other interesting thing that happens in the way the disciples relate to Jesus, is that the news came that Lazarus was ill. And it describes there in the first few verses, it says how Jesus loved Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, so he stayed 2 more days. Remember, he's a day's journey away from Lazarus. I don't know, it just whether that struck you as funny. You know, if somebody said that if I loved someone dearly, a family member or something, was poorly, and you came and told me that, and I said, well, I really love them, so I'm going to stay here. It doesn't quite make sense, but that's what Jesus did. Because Jesus was trying to reveal to the disciples was that his timing is perfect. And we can miss that. We can miss the plan of God's unfolding plan if we don't understand that God always has perfect timing. Here's the curious thing. At the time of Jesus here, the Pharisees taught that a dead body's spirit stayed around the dead body for 3 days. So when you buried a person, their spirit would stay in the tomb for 3 days in case the person was resuscitated. So if you died but then were resuscitated, the spirit was there ready to enter you again. But it was on the 3rd day that the spirit left the person. And so what Jesus was trying to show to the disciples and to those around them, Lazarus was properly dead. Jesus didn't go to resuscitate him and wake him up from his illness. Jesus was going to a man that was fully dead. His spirit had left him completely. And so in this timing that seemed confusing, Jesus was showing a greater miracle than would have been done if he'd have gone straight away and Lazarus had only been dead 2 days. And we need to learn from this not to miss God's timing in our ordinary days. He has perfect timing for you. I love these verses in Habakkuk 2, verse 3, about the vision being unfolded, whether that's a vision for your family restoration, whether that's a vision for healing from sickness, a vision for something that you're trying to achieve with your life, whatever it is. And it says here in Habakkuk, wait for it though it seems slow, it will come, it will not delay. And sometimes we think God's being slow, and we think he's delaying, but actually he's working out his perfect timing in our lives. Sometimes you haven't had your healing yet because God's perfect timing isn't ready yet. Sometimes that husband or wife that you're praying for hasn't come in your life because God is waiting for perfect timing for you. The list goes on and on and on. And we need to learn that he has perfect timing for us.